Todd Field explores cancel culture when a world-renowned conductor finds out that even she can't escape her misdeeds. I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com, and yeah, this is a review of Tar. I'm a blind film critic, and I watched this on iTunes, where it has audio description. I rented it, so that was cool. This was done by the Media Access Group, narrated by Andrew Thatcher, who is somebody I've heard a few times. I feel like not enough. So it was interesting to hear Andrew Thatcher's voice, because I definitely had to wait to the end of credits. I was like, I don't know who this is. I don't have that voice recognition with him yet, so I was not, I didn't immediately go, oh, Jedediah Barton, yeah, I don't need to write something, this wasn't that. Yeah, it's a tough film to narrate. I thought this would be really interesting. Hopefully my visually, my sighted subscribers don't immediately click out thinking like, oh, how dare you review Tar? I've heard a lot about this film, and I've heard a lot about Todd Field and his direction and how Kubrickian this is. We've turned that into a thing, Kubrickian, meaning how much like Stanley Kubrick this film is. And I think it's really interesting because that can mean a lot of things to different people, and I think different people are using it differently, because I didn't pick up on the Kubrickian style. In terms of like script and story, this is pretty much not. It doesn't feel like, at least the later half of his career, when he was sort of honing more and more into this Stanley Kubrick style, which I think had he survived, AI would have just been nuts. You get a little bit of that in Eyes Wide Shut, which is the film that Todd Field worked with Stanley Kubrick on and picked up on a lot of Stanley Kubrick styles, and that's why some people think he's like a protege of Kubrick and is paying homage to him here. If you look at like something like Spartacus, and then show somebody Eyes Wide Shut, they're not the same film. They don't even feel like they're the same director. It's like reminding somebody that like Ridley Scott directed Alien, David Fincher directed Alien 3. You look at Alien 3 and David Fincher, and you're like, well, yeah, this doesn't feel like David Fincher. This is David Fincher. Are you serious? What? It's that kind of thing. The Alien franchise, first 3 directors there were solid, right? Those are 3 great directors for Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3. But Alien 3 doesn't feel like something David Fincher would direct. But he did. At the beginning of his career. So it's kind of like that. Or you remind somebody the director of Mad Max Fury Road also directed Babe, Pig in the City, and then people start going, oh, well, directors have styles. It's like, do they? Let's talk about the similarities between Mad Max Fury Road and Babe, Pig in the City. I'll wait. So, I don't know. I don't know what Kubrickian means to people. To me, what I found really interesting about the film was Cate Blanchett. Like, hands down, Cate Blanchett. I don't know that Todd Field will make my director list of the year. I don't know if it's because I can't see, or just because I didn't love his directing. This was a film for me where I would give it like an A- as a film, but a lot of times a film has a performance that is so strong that I would give it an A. Like, I would give it like another bump up. Like, sometimes there's a performance in the film that is so incredible that it's worth watching. I'm somebody who really loves, and that's why a lot of my top 10 lists by the end of the year are just performances, or they're celebrating actors. I come from a place where actors make a lot of the film for me. Performances, I love watching people I love finding performances that I feel like nobody else is talking about and talking about them. This is, of course, a performance everybody's talking about, and it is actually worth talking about because she's incredible in this. I don't know if she is my favorite performance of the year. I'm gonna need to meditate on that for a while, but having just seen it, get a little bit of distance from it. But I mean, I didn't feel like I was watching Cate Blanchett. You know, I felt like I was watching Tar. I felt like I was watching this woman, this composer. She just like lives in this world. Every choice that she makes feels organic. And almost like we've captured her in a documentary in a weird way. It's such an odd film though, because it's so heavily on Cate Blanchett that like the supporting cast just disappears. Even I've heard some people talk about Nina Haas potentially for supporting actress, and it's like she has like a scene where she's good for 30 seconds. This film doesn't really give the supporting characters nearly the room and the depth to evolve or to spew monologues or to compete with Blanchett in banter. You know, Mark Strong has a scene where he does actually have a conversation with her, but it's so obvious that she's so that Cate is so far above him in that scene that she's just like a force of nature in this film. She just kind of destroys everything, which is, I guess, kind of the point of her character, is because her character is kind of a force of nature within the film. But even as a performance, I thought she kind of just destroyed everybody. Like, I think nominating anybody else from this film other than Cate Blanchett is a mistake. It kind of actually means you didn't understand the film. This film is all about one person. It's a film that features a person who feels like everything is all about them. Sort of what happens when you reach the top and the precipice of your career, and the things that you can say, that you can get away with, and also the things you become targeted of. A lot of it is unfair. There's a video that's edited together of hers. We're shown a scene this ends up becoming important later because it ends up having been recorded, and she says controversial things within, and some asshole student decides to make a mashup of it and do like a deep fake where it takes the words and literally twists them around. And because we saw the full uncut scene from beginning to end, we know how that scene actually played out. So when Cate is sitting there and trying to defend herself and say this video is bullshit, we know it's bullshit. So it actually becomes kind of interesting that way, because there are things that she is guilty of. There are things that she could have done better and made better choices, but there's also that level of unfairness to the situation that she's being targeted, possibly simply because she's at the top. Simply because other people are just looking to take her down, and don't like being told what to do, don't like whatever it is about her, that she's a lesbian conductor. I don't know. You know, it's tough to say in this world why people want to take down other people, but I think that's what Todd Field is exploring. It's not so black and white and cut and dry. It's not, Tar is not the greatest villain of the year. This is not something where she does something that is so obviously and inherently evil that you're just like, oh, well, fuck her for 2.5 hours. Because if it was like that, you wouldn't want to watch her for 2.5 hours. You wouldn't, it just wouldn't be as compelling. Her story would be less compelling if she threw like a baby off a roof and then you're trying to you're like, well, I don't know, I'm supposed to follow this woman for 2.5 hours. It's way more nuanced than that, which is why I think Todd Field's script is a lot more powerful than his direction. I don't know why this film was like shortlisted for original score over the Batman. What the fuck? What? Like, I think it was either that this was shortlisted or we nominated as a Critics' Choice. Like somewhere this film has no original score. What This is the kind of film that like years ago I would have seen a controversy about, like, like, oh, Tar is disqualified due to lack of original music, and it features so much music that is classical, that is clearly a music that I've heard before from other composers. She's directly referencing these composers and she's playing their music. I'm like, what score? Are you talking about like the little bit of music that plays through the credits? That's what we're nominating? Because the Batman didn't get shortlisted. Michael Giacchino's score for the Batman is still my favorite score of the year, and Tar somehow manages to get noticed for having a non-existent score. I was listening to it, and Todd Field he's far more into using silence, than anything else. This film actually has a really interesting sound design than it does a score. In a traditional sense, this film does not rely on a score to help tell the story. This film relies on silence, and then it brings in the music. It needs the room to be silent, so that way when she starts playing the piano, or she starts conducting, or somebody starts playing the cello, something like that, it highlights it more. If you have to transition out of a score into somebody's classical piece, then it just kind of makes that a little bit sloppier of a choice. That's kind of where Field's directorial choices stand out to me anyway, is his use of sound. He recognizes that the music here, that the people who write scores today, it's like, yeah, you can. I mean, we have some great people who write scores, but the likelihood that they're going to top, some classic Bach piece that's been around for hundreds of years and people are still talking about it is, I mean, 400 years from now, is somebody going to be like, this was featured in a movie? Anybody remember what a movie was? This was a song that was in the movie Tar. Now we're going to play it. No, it's not going to happen. So I think he realizes that, and he very smartly highlights, and it also creates this level of authenticity towards her being this composer of classical music. And when she starts talking about her expertise and her knowledge of classical music, that's it. Fun fact, this is actually where I work in, when I'm not doing videos, I actually work in a music department. So I'm around this stuff all the time, and I'm so interested once more people I work with actually see this film to know how legitimate they feel her portrayal of. I work with actual conductors and everything. So this film, to me, I have a really bizarrely unique perspective coming from first blind film critic, also works in music. So it's exactly where it lands in an exact spot. But for me, the thing that held me to the ground was Cate Blanchett's performance. Everything else just sort of helped to shape the film around her. It was a good film. I don't know if it's the top 10 film of my year, but I can understand why people are obsessed with it. It doesn't bother me that it's not in my top 10, but it also doesn't bother me that it's in other people's top 10s. Like I said, I think this is probably an A- film for me. Made it into an A film because Cate Blanchett is that good. Every once in a while there's a film that's like that for me, where it's like, the film was this, but this performance, like, you have to see this performance. And Cate Blanchett's performance really is that. It really is actually one of those performances where you go, yeah, you have to see it. You just have to see it. I mean, she might win. I don't feel that way about some of the other people that she's up against this year, where I feel like, oh my god, you have to. But this is either Cate Blanchett's, if it's not her top performance, it's like in her top 3. This is of the stuff she's ever done. I mean, I need to watch Blue Jasmine again to really determine, and probably Carol, to just kind of figure out exactly, the ranking of those performances and figure out. I mean, the thing about Cate Blanchett is that she's been excellent in so many films that you look at Tar, you're like, God, is this her best? I feel like I need to like rewatch Cate Blanchett's like at least a few more of her performances to go. This is second, or whatever, or first, or third, or it's tough to come right out and say because of how amazing she's always been, and she might actually win a third Oscar for this. I wouldn't be mad. I think there's somebody else that I love who's not going to get nominated. That is, I think, going to be my top choice, but they're not going to get nominated. So I'll take Cate Blanchett. That's fine. It's a great performance, and I hope you guys watch the film. The narration is great. It tries to make up for all the directorial choices that Todd Field is taking by showing us a little bit of these rooms and these concert halls, giving us description of these concert halls and the difference in the spaces. She has multiple homes. She lives in different places, and just sort of the difference in those things. She's also a little bit of a germaphobe, so we watch her. And many times we're given notes about somebody giving her hand sanitizer. There's a scene where she has to do something and then has to go clean herself. Meticulously so, like over the top clean herself. For the ratio of what she went through to the the amount at which she cleans herself is enough to let you know she's a germaphobe. Like this is not a thing for her. So it's a really well done audio description script as well, and narrated really well by Andrew Thatcher. Yeah, I have no problems with. There wasn't anything where I was like, oh, I wish he had done this instead, or I wish I was missing this, or what would happen to this. Everything was there, and it wasn't something necessarily that we needed to highlight. He didn't really have to focus on Cate Blanchett too much because she actually manages to kind of emote in a way where you could always sort of picture what she's like, the choices that she's making. She's so good in the inflection and every way she says every word. It feels like she's living in the role. I don't know how else to put that. It feels like she just, for however long she was filming Tar, just became somebody else and is no longer Cate Blanchett. So it's like watching somebody in a documentary. It doesn't feel like it's acting, so I didn't need to know necessarily her acting choices, like, little things that little choices she was making along the way. I could pick up on almost all of that just through the tone in her voice, little changes, little things that she would do. Just a phenomenal performance. So I've actually mentioned several times the grade that I'm going to give Tar, but at this point, I'm at this point in the thing. So yeah, I'm going to give Tar an A. I admitted, I think it's an A- film for me personally, but it's bumped up to an A because I think Cate Blanchett's performance demands it. Her performance exceeds the movie. Her performance eclipses everything else. This is one for the record books. This is one where later on down the line we'll all be talking about great performances. And we'll be like, oh my God, you even see Cate Blanchett in Tar? It's one of those. I don't know that the film is going to be for everybody. It's debatably a little bit long. It depends on how much you like acting. Like, I watched her for 2.5 hours. And I loved it. I loved watching her. So if the film had actually fleshed out the supporting cast more and I ended up watching more of like Mark Strong and Mila Haas, I don't know that I would have been interested as much in that, but because Cate Blanchett's in every frame, it just didn't bother me that much. She's electric in this. it's worth the hype. I didn't know if it would be, but it is actually worth the hype. It's artistic as hell, but fantastic. So, anyway, please subscribe. I'm like on the precipice of 100, of breaking 100. So, if you like my stuff and you like hearing people talk about audio description and blind people watching movies and reminding people that we watch movies, I'm trying to get audio description on more and more movies. I want to be, that's what I want my influencer status to be. I want to be the influencer who gets audio description added to movies. I want to be able to like hashtag a film and shame them into adding audio description for blind people. You know, hashtag Neon, why doesn't Triangle of Sadness have audio description? I don't know. It's a long hashtag, but something like that. Anyway, so subscribe. I also have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can follow me on Twitter at macthemovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acd.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know more about Andrew Thatcher and what other films he has narrated or TV shows. That's it for me today. I will review something else and get back to you guys. So until then, I will see you on the other side.